see when they view our religion. So this can create stereotypes if building house of worship goes into the wrong hands. Imagine someone portraying themselves as Islam, and it's so easy for them to get a permit and build a house of worship, but they are not actually implementing the lessons of Islam. So, for example, cultism. They can say that they are a Muslim, but because they have the facilities, because they have a mosque, because they have all these things that show credentials, when it actually isn't the point.
15 million.
15. We have time?
15 million.
And you can argue about the conflicts and the disputes of these, generally not purely due to religious factors, but it is political, economic, of other factors which are associated with religion. So it's not about mostly the religious problems, but political problems, such as the example of the Ambon and Palo conflicts. And these conflicts can be prevented if local governments focus on what is there and they understand what is the regulation.
Time is up. Okay, thank you. Now it's time for the government team to ask a question to the opponent team.
So first of all, the opponent team say that Indonesia has the most amount of worship house, and we have around 20,050 mosques, am I right? And my question is, we have a lot of mosques in Indonesia, and my question is, why it should be a bad thing if we have a lot of worship house? And also you say that the solution to our problem is not by accepting the legalization of worship house, but by socialize. Yes?
It's not about against the legalizations. We are like concerning the regulation that already exists as something that is matter, and behind that, every consideration has already in that. So what we consider is not to change the law, not to make the regulation different, but to socialize what's the matter, what's the root of the conflict. It needs to be socialized. It needs to be known by all of Indonesian people, based on diversity itself.
And how do you think the effective way to socialize it to Indonesian people?
There's so many. Rather than changing the law itself, socialize about the importance of house of worship. What is needed?
How? The implementation to socialize it. The example.
You are asking about techniques, right? So,
sorry, for the government team, please make clear for your question first.
So my question is, because you say that we should socialize it to people. My question is, how actually we implement it, how we socialize it to people in the example. And also you say that actually it's more into political problem, where in my opinion it's more into religious problem, because a lot of people are attacking worship house and not allowing the legalization of worship house because they are intolerant people that not agree with the minority having their worship house. Thank you.
Now it's time for the opponent to answer the question.
How to socialize it? You know that moderation of religion start with nothing, but the government start to socialize it until now it become our emotion, it become the context of this event, and it becomes like everything that is considered in every constitutional things. So that if government wanted to socialize about the house of worship, about the importance of like giving tolerance to house of worship, they will do. Because government, the constitutional things, have a very big rights of this matter.
And to point out to your question, I haven't said that Indonesia have the biggest worship, but it is easier than other countries to build a house of worship. And as we're discussing on fulfilling the diversity of Indonesian society, I think it is good to mention that we have a lot of houses of worship because we agree on the diversity, and we are fulfilling these diversities by making permits.
Apa maksudnya? Maksudnya apa? Kita masih pakai izin gitu. Kalau buat rumah ibadah, yang bagusnya pakai izin.
The establishment of houses of worship must refer to the Joint Ministerial Regulation of PPM for Home Affairs and the Minister of Religion number 8 and time of 2006 concerning FKUB and the establishment of houses of worship. Behind this law, behind all of this 10 regulations, there is a reason and there is a consideration of the government to the near future. So we can change regulation, we can make the law become easier, but we can make the unwritten law that happen in society to be easier, because that is the solution of this problem. Thank you.
Not just regulations, but equally as important is the enforcement to strengthen law enforcement and protect the citizens from act and violence, and strengthen the regularity status of ministerial regulations to become law. So not only that these regulations are protecting them, but we are also enforcing the law enforcement for them to be more safe from the violence and discriminatory, as you are said is a problem.
So here my question is, you said that we have to give the solution into the environment in that society, right? But my question is, usually the government itself who make the permission of establishing of the worship house is difficult. Well, actually, for example, the cases of Cilegon that happened in Cilegon, they built one of the church, but they already have their legalization actually, but the government said that the legalization is not. Yeah, thank you.
So that's unknown. We don't need to change all of the law that is already written in the government, in the constitutional things, based on one thing that is unpredictable, right?
Thank you. Time is up.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for the opening group to ask a question to the government. Yeah, thank you.
So, unfortunately, the sad reality that we live in is that not every community and not every society is supportive of minorities. So, if a minority builds a house of worship and it is abandoned, it is not supported by the community around them, then how will you react to this? Because they are given a permit easily.
So here you talk about the minority of the society, right? But how if we change, and how if we getting back to our religion? For example, how if Islam itself as the minority in one of the society, and they have been difficult to build a place of worship house just because the government and because of the society itself. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum.
We are from Bali. We know that. We are the minority itself in our land. And what's the matter? What's really concerning about us is not the law, but the society acceptance, the unwritten law. So, what's really our consideration is not the written law itself, but unwritten law, the society acceptance. That's what we are talking about. That's why this motion exists, because the problem is everywhere. It's not only happen in Bali, like you guys ever mentioned before. There's the data that there's the disturbance of house of worship. Like, what is the root for that? What's the context for that? It's because the society give none of the acceptance for every house of worship in Indonesia due to diversity. That's the problem.
But means we cannot despite the fact that our social life is controlled by law. As a country, as a law country, our social life is always controlled by law. So if you say that most of minority, if they are getting attacked, then what we should fix is the society, but the society starts from the law. If we allow the legalization of worship house, then it will be easier for people to respect the existence of other religion. Thank you.
Behind every law, I repeat my statement. Behind every law, there is consideration. Like, if we make this law easier, there will be another matter that is causing problems. Like, like my friend was mentioned before, the cult. What is more that the non-maintaining house of worship, which is that it can cause the another problem, the another stigma, and there is so many more. So what we concern is, it's not about like taking off all of the roots. It's not taking all of the law and changing all of the law. Not. It's about concerning what's the matter, what's the problem, and we fix that problem in that point. Because Indonesia is country to know.
Worship and its details cannot be changed, but the mu'ala law and the matters related to society can be changed with the details. As long as it's conceptual with the details, as long as it's changed with the details, and these concepts are firmly adhered to the Islamic law. And so we are not changing among. And
So it's time for both of the group to make a conclusion for today's debate. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, especially the judges, we all know that Indonesia consists of many religions that we need to accept in order to decrease the numbers of conflict that caused by diversity of religions. It's kind of desolate from me for seeing people against each other, and this is why we should support the worship houses to be stand for every religion. Even for the minority and the remote area that lack of worship houses. Remembering the UU, a constitutional law that explains the word religious right. More details you can open in Constitutional Law 29 verse 2 to make sure that everyone is allowed to embrace their own religion. And as a country that as a law-based country, the government should protect